Hi, I'm Terry, one of the Consumer Technology Specialists for Mid-Continent Public Library. And did you know there are at least 3 different ways that you can cut or copy text within your document, and then another at least 3 different ways to paste that information back into a document? Well, we're going to look at all of those options today. If you have a paper document, let's say a letter, and you would like to have a copy of that letter, you would take it to a copier machine and you would place it on the glass potentially, and you would press the go button and it would make a copy. So you would have in the end an original and a copy. Well, that's very similar to what happens in Word. In Word, we're going to select text. We're going to click a copy button that puts the copy of that text in the clipboard, a special place in memory of your machine. And then you will have the original still and the copy in the memory of your machine, just waiting for you to place it someplace else. To start off, let's look at an example that pops up from time to time, and that is you have a message that is just a really short message, but you need to hand it out to a lot of different people. So you can copy this information and then paste it down the page so that you're not wasting a lot of paper with just nothing on it. What we can do is we can select this text. I'm just going to click and drag over the whole thing. You can see that I have a background now that highlights that text. It shows me exactly what I have selected. And then to copy, we're going to go to the ribbon to the very first group, the clipboard group. And I even see a button that looks like an original and a copy. Sure enough, it says copy. Put a copy of this selection on the clipboard so you can paste it somewhere else. Well, we're going to click that button and copy. And it doesn't really look like we're doing anything because that copy goes to the clipboard, the inner workings of the computer. Well, we do need to let Word know where we want to paste. So I'm going to click on this document. I might even press enter to give me a little extra space between the two versions of the text. Now that I've decided where it's going to go, I can go back to the clipboard on the ribbon and find that first button, paste. Now the paste button is a composite button, meaning that there are 2 places where I can click it and get different kinds of options. If I click the top of the paste button, I get a standard paste. So I think that's what I want to do. And even as I hover, it says add content from the clipboard to your document. So let's click that paste button. And now I have an original and a copy on my sheet. Now let's look at another way that we could do a copy and a paste. And some people really prefer this way. Well, we're going to start off just like we did before. We're going to select our text. But this time I'm going to keep my mouse just right kind of there where I have the selected text. And I'm going to do a right click on my mouse. Now this brings up a shortcut menu where the very first 2 options are cut and copy. Well, we're going to select copy, and again it goes to the clipboard of my machine. Then I'm going to click where I want to put that copy, and I'm going to right click where I've clicked, and now I have paste options. I'm just going to take the first one and paste. And that easily, we've now used a shortcut menu using my right click on my mouse to copy and paste. The last example that we're going to look at is to use keyboard shortcuts. Now, after you watch this video, you may forget, but hopefully you'll remember this. Let's go back up to that clipboard group, and I'm going to rest my mouse over that copy button, and notice that to the right of the word copy it says Control C. Well, that is the keyboard shortcut. You hold down the Control key, press the C key, and let them both up at the same time. If we hover over paste, just to the right of paste, it says Control V. So again, we hold down the Control key, press the V key, and let the keys up at the same time, and that will paste. So let's look at how we can do that. First of all, I'm going to select my text like I did before. Then I'm going to press Control C. Now again, we aren't going to see any change because that goes to the memory of the computer. Then we click and say, all right, this is where I want that copy to go. And then we're going to press Control V, and we now have our copy. Now let's talk about two words that mean essentially the same thing, and they are cut and move. So if you think about cut as having a newspaper article that, wow, you really like it and you want to share it with others, maybe take it to work, and so you decide to take scissors and cut that article out of the newspaper, well, it's no longer in its original place and you are going to move it to another location. Same thing with move. Let's say that you decide you don't like where you're living, and so you decide to move to, say, a new house. Well, you would pack up everything that's in your current location, and then you would move all of your belongings to that new location. They'd no longer be where you are now. Well, the same thing happens with text in Word. You would select the text, click the Cut button, and it goes to memory, the clipboard, and it waits for you to tell it where to go to its new location. But once you place it in that new location, it won't be back in the old location. Here is something that people will do quite often. And that is, as they read the message or the text that they have created, they realize that they would like to move some of those words around a little bit. So, for example, let's look at this second sentence. And having read it over and over, we've decided that what we would like to do is start with, so that we can start singing promptly at 2 o'clock. Please arrive by 1:30. We just want to rearrange that sentence. Well, what we can do is select so that we can start singing promptly at 2 o'clock, and then we can go up to the Cut button that is again in the clipboard group. Cut it, and it disappears, kind of scary, but it has gone to the clipboard in our computer. Then we're going to click where we want that phrase to go, and then we go to the Paste button. And here it is. Now, as it so happens, we need to do some really quick editing, so I'll make that small s a capital S, and I probably need to put in a comma after 2 o'clock, and delete the period, and remove the capital P. But that easily, and put a period at the end, that easily we have rearranged an entire sentence just by using cut and paste. Let's look at that example again, except this time let's do a right click instead. So we're going to go to so that we can start singing promptly at 2 o'clock and select all of that text. Then we're going to keep our mouse right there and do a right click. This time the very first choice is cut, so we will click cut and the text goes to the clipboard. Then we will click again where we want that text to be when we paste, and then we're even going to keep our mouse right there, right click, and take that first paste option. Now we still need to do some cleanup, but it's just really fast to go in and add some capital letters and put in some correct spacing. And we're done. So a right click is sometimes what people prefer, just because it's all right there under your fingertips, but it's up to you which one you choose. Our third way to cut and paste is to use keyboard shortcuts. So let's go up, just as a reminder of what that could be. Let's go to the clipboard and go to our cut button now. And when we hover over, it says cut is Control X, and just as a reminder, paste is Control V. So now let's do what we've done before. Let's select the text that we want to move or cut, either way. When we highlight that, then we can use Control X to cut it, and it goes away, goes to the memory of the machine. Then we're going to click where we want that text to go, and we'll press Control V. Then we very quickly do some editing to put the capital letters in the right place, fix our grammar by adding a comma and removing another capital letter, and we have our finished product. A lot of people like using those keyboard shortcuts, and here's the thing, whether you use the ribbon, whether you use the keyboard shortcuts, whether you use the right click of your mouse, it's just all up to you and what makes sense to how you are working at that particular time. Remember how we first talked about the paste button and how we said it's a composite button, meaning that the top part of the button is just a standard paste. But if we click the lower part of the button where there's a little drop-down arrow, we may get 3 or 4 options of how we can take text and paste it into a document that maybe has different formatting, the same formatting, but we have some choices in how we want to paste that document in. And so let's look at those options when you click the bottom half of the paste button. Now let's look at what happens when we use the lower options on the lower part of that paste button. Starting off, we're going to use the same example that we've been using, this little reminder to the third graders. And as we look at its font, we can see that in the font group in the ribbon, it says that it is Calibri or Calibri, depending on how you prefer to pronounce it, but it is just the default font for Microsoft documents. Now let's look at our next document, which is in fact a newsletter for the school. And it has a very different kind of font. Let's look at that one. So when we go to the font group, it says this is Comic Sans. Very different. Well, what happens when we take our Calibri text and paste it into this Comic Sans text? Now, we have used 2 separate documents as our example here, but in fact, it could be that you have a really much larger document that has sections, and maybe each section is uniquely formatted, and so if you take text from one place in the document and place it in a new section, you would end up having the same kinds of issues. So let's do this where we select our text, just like we have done in the past, and then we can either copy or cut. I'm going to copy. That text then goes to the clipboard. Now we're going to shift over to our other document, which is where we want our text to go. And I'm going to click just in front of all because that's really where I want this text to be pasted. And this time when I go to the paste button, I'm going to click the drop down and take the first choice. Keep source formatting. Now you'll notice that there are 4 options here. So as I hover over very quickly, we could see that we could also merge formatting. We could paste a picture. special just for pictures if we had one, and then we could also keep text only. Well, let's go with our first choice, and as I hover over that keep source formatting, you'll see that in our text here that we have a preview of how that's going to look. But let me click the button, and now as I scroll down a little bit, we can see that where we had Comic Sans before at the beginning of our newsletter, we still have Comic Sans, and at the end of this newsletter, we still have Comic Sans, but where I pasted in that text from the previous document, we have Calibri. Now this will work even better, perhaps, if you have kind of the plain text as the large document, and then you paste in some fancier formatting, say, from that other document. Either way, this works really well if that is what you want to do to keep the source formatting. Now let's look at another option in that lower part of the paste button. And to start off, we're going to do what we've been doing, which is go to our original little reminder here, and we're going to select all of the text. And then we're going to go to the clipboard group and click copy, although we could cut. When we copy, again, that copy goes to the clipboard, and then we want to paste this in the other document, so we're going to shift over to that other document, click where we want our text to go, and then we're going to go to the paste button and click the drop down for that button and go to the second choice, which is merge formatting. Merge formatting looks at the formatting before and after where we are pasting, and it says, all right, well, this is the formatting that you want to use instead of what you have right now. So we're going to click that merge formatting button, and so as we look at the newsletter now, the original part of that newsletter is Comic Sans, the last part of it is Comic Sans, and the piece that we pasted in is now also Comic Sans. Now let's look at the last option under the paste button, but before we do, I'm going to select all of this text by clicking and dragging over it, and then I'm even going to select that last space after the last period because it's kind of hidden in there, but we do want to pick it up too. Now we're going to go to the Styles group and find Intense Emphasis, and when we do, that changes the text. Let me click off of it so you can see, to a kind of light blue and italicized. That's important. We've now added a style to our text. Well, let me select it again. And then we're going to go to our copy button and click it. Then let's shift over to that newsletter and click where we want to put that copy. And we're going to put it before the last sentence here, I think. Then we'll go to our paste button, click the drop down, and go to keep text only. Now, keep text only can be used for a variety of reasons. One is you have two Word documents, but one may have had the text created in an older version of Word than the one that you're pasting into. Well, that older version might have hidden code that doesn't work well with the newer version of Word. So to avoid that problem, we could keep text only. One of the primary reasons why you would use keep text only is when you are copying from a website or a web-based email and pasting into your document, because web-based material in general tends to have hidden code, and so if you don't use that keep text only, you could find yourself with corrupted bullets or numbering or tables or page numbers, or even just find that all of a sudden you're double spacing and you want to single space. So to avoid those issues, you want to use keep text only. Well, let's see what happens when we select that to now. And so let's see, it did pick up and it kind of merged the font to Comic Sans, but the blue is gone, the italics is gone, and as I come over here, it's even removed that last space that had hidden code in it. Wow, so it saves you a lot of problems, not necessarily right now, but down the road. All right, we're just going to press enter and put that last sentence as its own paragraph. And we have used keep text only to its best benefit. We also have those 4 choices of the lower part of the paste button if we do a right click instead of use the ribbon. So let's see how that looks. First of all, we'll copy our information that like we've been doing. We'll select the text, do a right click and copy. Then we'll move over to the second document and do a right click where we want to do that paste. So I'll do a right click, and then the paste options are now those 4 buttons. And so I could keep text only, I could merge formatting, or I could keep source formatting. Let's just go with the first choice here and keep source formatting. And it works pretty much just the same as what we did with the ribbon. Let's do one last example where this time we're going to use the keyboard shortcuts. So we'll select the text that we want to copy, and then I'll use Control-C to do the copy. And of course we can't see anything, but we know that that copy goes to the clipboard. Then we'll move over to our second document, and we'll click where we want to paste, and then we'll do a Control-V to paste. Now this isn't as obvious, but notice that you get this little button that has the paste options. So you click the drop down on that little button, and now we have the same 4 options that we have at the bottom of the paste button. And again, we're just going to click on the first one, keep source formatting. And we have now pasted. Now, if that little button sticks, you press the escape key to get rid of it. Eventually it'll go away. Just depends on if it gets in your way or not. For more information, be sure to go to mymcpl.org/online learning. There you'll see such great online resources as Universal Class, lynda.com, Who Knew It, and Learning Express Library. We now premiere 3 new tech videos each week, so join us on MCPL 360 on Facebook, Tuesdays at 2, Wednesdays and Fridays at 1. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel if you just prefer YouTube, or maybe you've missed our Facebook premiere. You can subscribe to our channel at MCPL MO, where you'll be able to find the MCPL Consumer Technology Resources playlist.